Welcome to the Alaska Report. I'm Senator Mark Begich. This show is designed to inform you about the issues, programs, and people important to Alaska. In this segment of the Alaska Report, I'm pleased to welcome two of our own state lawmakers visiting from the state capitol in Juneau. Senator Gary Stevens, who represents Kodiak and serves as the Senate President, and Senator Johnny Ellis, who represents Anchorage and is the Rules Chairman. Thank you both for being here and welcome to Alaska Report. Let's begin with a brief explanation for the people back home. What is Energy Council? I know that's what you're here for. A lot of people are wondering what is it all about. I know, you know, let's tell the people.
Well, thank you, Senator Begich, and thank you for inviting us on the program. It's been we've started the first day, mostly meeting with our congressional delegation and meeting with the FERC people from the Federal Energy Commission. Tomorrow we really start in meeting with several speakers who are telling us about all the various issues that are so important to us in developing oil and gas in Alaska.
And it's not just Alaskans that are here, it's other people from around the country that come to this conference. Is that correct?
Yeah. Several states are here, all the states that are producing oil are here.
And for us, there's also, because of some of the activity in North Dakota, it's interesting to see some of the development that's going on there, because they're now becoming more competitive with us, taking, in my view, some of our workers, because they have active activity there. And so you're learning what's going on there and hopefully be able to bring that back to Alaska in what we can do to continue to keep our industry vibrant and growing.
That's right. Last year was my first year at Energy Council, and I was wonderfully surprised at how much we learned, how much hard work we put in. And so we want the folks at home to know that this is very much of a working trip to deal with federal agencies, but also to learn about the oil and gas industry and competitiveness around. Last year, and for several years, we had heard about shale gas and some of the impacts that shale gas finds in the lower 48 and around the world are affecting the market economics for in Alaska, a large pipe gas line in the state of Alaska. So Energy Council is where we got the alarm bell about the changing market conditions. So it's pretty important that we dig into these issues here.
And it helps us understand kind of where we fit in the global picture of energy. That it used to be maybe a decade or so ago, Alaska was the place to go and do it, but now we compete on a global perspective, and now, because of you just mentioned shale gas in the lower 48, we have a lot more competition, so we got to find the edge and where we can cut the best deal, have the best product to be able to bring to market and be able to create the jobs for Alaska. So that gives you kind of the insight that maybe you may not get back in Juneau during the session, and this few days here really makes a difference.
And Senator, we've heard about shale gas at Energy Council. Now we're hearing about shale oil.
That's right.
In Alaska, and some of the exciting prospects to get more throughput to the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. I had not heard of shale oil before. I've heard of heavy oil, viscous oil, and we may need to make some adjustments in our tax policy to lift that heavy oil. It's more expensive. But shale oil, the source rocks for the Prudhoe Bay Reservoir, which is close to the pipeline, and there are smaller companies leasing all along there. We're hoping they have the financing to get to that oil because we need the throughput. And I know you're working on that as well.
We think this is important, as we talked earlier today when we had several of you folks in the office talking about how we make move the discussion of the oil pipeline as well as the gas line, that these are not Alaska projects by themselves, are really national projects. And talking about how to fill that pipeline up is critical, not just for our state with jobs and oil revenue for the state, but for domestic oil production for the country. So making sure, and part of, I'm sure, your task here is not only meeting with us, but letting other people know in agencies how important that line is, not just to Alaska, but to the rest of the country and bringing supply. And I know you've met with some folks here, and tell me how. I know we have to deal with the federal agencies on a regular basis, but I know your experiences here are really trying to educate them and help them move their agenda forward that represents what we want. Well,
you know, Senator, how important oil is to us. Some 90% of our budget is based on oil, so it does pay for education, it pays for police protection, it pays for all the things that Alaskans have grown to enjoy. And so it is important to us that we realize, though, that it's a mature field, Prudhoe, but there are so many other options out there that are open to us: Outer Continental Shelf, ANWR, the shale oil that Senator Ellis was talking about.
NPRA.
Just the opportunities are just enormous, and so Alaskans shouldn't feel bad that we have a mature field, because the other opportunities are just tremendous. Like as you mentioned, the heavy oil issue and the viscous oil. I mean, that's an enormous amount of oil that is available if we can find a way to get it into the pipeline and get it to market. And I think you're absolutely right to help Alaskans help America realize how important that pipeline is. We can, you know, I did hear a funny thing. Somebody said, when was the last time an oil company executive was beheaded in Prudhoe Bay? And the answer is never. It's never happened.
That's right.
And so it's a good place to
it's a
draw
good,
for oil.
secure, safe place to do the business.
Exactly.
Well, one of the things I'll mention that we're trying to do, because we think the gas line, oil line are important, but especially helping people understand the flow and what that means. The lower the flow, the opportunities start to diminish rapidly in keeping that line open. So we've made a request to the Commerce Committee to have a hearing to kind of really expose the rest of the country to the importance of that line, but also why it's important to fill that line up. Right. And we have great prospects up there, so it's important for us to make the case, and that's what we can do back here as a delegation to assist your work in helping companies keep their investment there, is help bring national attention to the value of those fields. May they be state fields, or in our case, what we're trying to work forward is some of the federal allocations and fields.
And you know, for Alaskans, we can argue about the wildlife refuge. It is a wildlife refuge under federal designation. But the other part is the National Petroleum Reserve. It's a petroleum reserve, so Alaskans are
There's a reason they named it that.
Exactly. And Representative Berta Gardner and some other folks in the House have really taken a lead with the Corps of Engineers, but more importantly with the EPA. I guess the EPA originally went along with the air quality permits for the NPRA for ConocoPhillips to access those leases across the Colville River. Directional drilling probably doesn't do it. We need a bridge over the Colville River to get to those leases. Berta Gardner's taken the lead on that along with her colleagues, and we're hoping to make some progress there. And I know you're trying to help with that as well.
Yeah, our office has been very aggressive about it, you know, and sometimes to the anger of some of the department heads over at EPA and others, but we think it's important, and it really is about.
Well, they helped us and then they blocked us.
Right, and
on the appeal.
Right, and on this one, which is interesting about the bridge, not only do we want to get the line over the river, but the issue is also an access bridge. Why is that important? Because if there is a mishap of any kind, we want quick access. And one thing I think we have a great record on, in the sense of the pipeline work, we have a great record of spill response. You know, when we have a situation, Alaska Pipeline's very quick. They have multiple layers. The state has done a great job in constantly looking at their rules and regulations to make sure that the safety is there, but also the environmental safety is there. And I think everyone agrees, other than a couple agencies, which we're working on, is the bridge access, not only for the line, but for the ability to move over there in case there's a mishap, we can respond quickly. So we're working through it. I actually feel, based on what we're starting to hear, there's some positive news. We'll just kind of keep working through it. I know you went over and saw Kim Elton, our Alaskan in the Interior Department, who constantly is pounding the table on our behalf. How did those meetings go, or that meeting?
That was outstanding. Kim, the last time I saw him, he was a senator in
Alaska.
That's right.
He was one of your colleagues.
Now here he is working in the department. We're very pleased to have him there. It was really nice to have that access to someone who knows how federal government works and how the department works. So he's been a tremendous asset to Alaska. He's no longer working with us or for us, but we're glad to have him here.
And he often talks to Pete Rouse, former Alaskan and advisor to the president in the White House. So we feel like we have some, with you and the rest of our congressional delegation and those folks, those Alaskans, that we have some pretty good contacts here in the nation's capital.
I feel pretty lucky when I look around and see so many Alaskans that are serving in these different departments. Also, another area that we have a lot of people who have served in Alaska is the Defense Department. I mean, I look around and I see a lot of these individuals who are 2-star, 3-star generals, 4-star generals who have served in Alaska, understand Alaska, and are here representing us. So we have a unique set of allies that have grown over the years that are now available for us.
And the fact now that Admiral Barrett, Tom Barrett, is back in Alaska. We've always considered him an Alaskan, and now he's in charge of the pipeline. He's the person you want there to make sure that it continues to operate. And
he has a good attitude, I'll tell you. We met with him. He has good relations he's building with the federal agencies because of his past experience, is now parlayed into really benefiting Alaska.
And those are military folks who understand about the training grounds, the unique training opportunities in Alaska for the military. the need for reliable energy for the military to
right.
avoid base closures in the future. I know you're concerned about that, but
Yep.
protecting us in that regard.
And I know you folks have been very helpful, and you're right, especially up in the northern region, the Fairbanks region. We want to make sure we have reliable energy, affordable energy, not only for the community of Fairbanks and the surrounding area, but also for our military bases. That's an important factor to make sure that we continue to have them there. As you know, the Stryker Brigade is up there. We're about to have almost 4,500 plus Alaskans being shipped out to Afghanistan. It's going to be a trying time for their families, but it's an important strategic location for our nation's security. And so as a member of the Armed Services Committee, we're always kind of poking at the DoD, Department of Defense, to remind them, one, how strategic we are, but how supportive the Alaskan community is no matter where we are located.
And a special thanks to your wife and yourself for the support of military families. I participated in an event.
Oh, that's right. You came
at
by
the middle school
Yeah.
with your son and wife, and great crowd and lots of support for military families who are going through difficult times.
That's right. It's a great event. She does it. She did it when I was mayor, and the idea is to really give a free event for families, almost like respite. You know, they're under a lot of stress, a lot of issues. It's all free, all donated by the community, and it's a great opportunity. We have about a couple minutes before we take a break, but I want to ask you another kind of sub-energy, and we'll shift a little bit from energy into, well, it is still energy, it's gas, and I know you met with Larry Pursley, and I know that's a big challenge right now in the legislature, trying to figure out how we get our gas off the slope and down into some markets. You want to
And I think that's coming up tomorrow with FERC commissioners.
Very good.
Yeah, we haven't met with Larry yet, but we will.
Oh, you're
okay. Of course, we met with him in Juneau a couple of times,
Right.
and I'm really glad he's there as well. You know, I think there's been some concern in Alaska about it's taken so long, and concern about trying to hurry up the process. I'm not sure you can hurry it up. We've got to make sure that, I think, give it the time and make sure it works. So Larry has been great to work with. He certainly is knowledgeable, and I'm glad he's in that position now.
Well, I know he worked for the legislature. I think it was for Representative Hawker for a little bit.
Correct.
And so he has the intricacies of how you all operate, which is good. Now he's in the federal system, and he understands how that works. And it's going to be, I think, a huge value as you move forward as state legislators trying to figure out what's the right way to get this line moving.
Absolutely.
You should know from our end, I think this is a unified position from the delegation. When that moment comes and you need the federal assistance in the regards to permits and making sure that is expedited as quickly as possible, we're here. We'll put it in the fifth gear, and if there's a sixth gear, we'll find it and jam it into that.
And it's exciting when President Obama talks about clean energy and
That's
natural
right.
gas being the bridge to a clean energy future.
It's our ticket.
Yes, it's very exciting to have that kind of alignment.
Yeah, it is, knowing that they recognize that gas is not some product that's they're going to shove off their side, but it's an important piece of our future energy is great. When we get back, I want to talk a little about some other areas, everything from maybe fisheries and maybe law of the sea, the Arctic, and a variety of things. But thank you guys again for being here for this first half. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with the Alaska Report. When we come back, we will continue to talk with State Senators Gary Stevens and Johnny Ellis. We'll be right back.
Any questions?
What kind of service plan does this come with?
Unlimited.
Can I keep my same phone number?
Absolutely.
How do I change the ringtone?
Just hook it up to your computer.
Does it have a camera? What's the warranty? Does it come in silver? Can I put my party shuffle on this? Does it have a 3.5 millimeter headset jack? You sell a lot of these?
It's the one I carry.
You ever get those phantom vibrations in your pocket?
Any questions?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Ask questions. For the 10 questions everyone should know, go to ahrq.gov.
Welcome back to Alaska Report. I'm Senator Mark Begich. Again, today I'm here with Senator Gary Stevens and Senator Johnny Ellis, who are here for Energy Council, but also for a variety of other reasons. I mean, it's not just energy. You're meeting with many different folks, the delegation as well as other departments, to talk about the important needs of Alaska. As you know, a couple weeks ago, the first half we talked a lot about energy. Now we're going to do kind of the variety pack, if that's okay. We talked a lot last couple weeks on essential air service, which for Alaska is critical. We, as the delegation, fought back an attempt to eliminate that program. This is, as you know, for especially rural areas, critical to make sure that we get good air service in Alaska. And I know from your perspective, from Kodiak, especially in the areas you represent, we gave this speech, but I know a lot of people don't really understand what essential air service is and the value of it.
Well, there are so many communities on my island that are served through EAS, and if it wasn't for that, it would just be impossible to fly freight out there, to transfer people back and forth. It's just has really saved many communities. And I just really want to thank you as well as the rest of the delegation. I think the three of you have just worked enormously hard on this, and it looks like it's going to be a success, that you're going to be able to keep it.
That's right.
And that's really quite remarkable. And it's not just, Kodiak is, I think Dutch Harbor is one of the major players as well. I mean, that's such an important player.
We have 44 communities in Alaska. Almost half of the whole nation's program is in Alaska.
Right.
I actually enjoyed, I put we of course call it the classic map, where it shows the lower 48 with Alaska in proportion plastered over it. I put that up on the wall, or out on the debate on the floor, and I explained that ADAC is 1,200 miles from the next hub, and you could not get there other than by plane. And I had a new senator come up to me, and he said to me, I had no idea how big Alaska was. So in a lot of ways, the debate not only helped us preserve, and thanks for the comment, but it also gave us a chance to educate people on Alaska. And that's what we try to always look at these issues. What can we do to educate people about Alaska and how unique it is? At the same time, explain why these services, we're not asking for a handout, we're just partnering. We feel there's an equity issue here, and it came out on the right end this time.
Absolutely. Well, I don't think folks in the rest of the country realize what a critical thing it is for us who live in rural Alaska, that the only way you can get from one place to the other is by air. There's no road connection, and absolutely essential.
We call it the highway in the sky. That's what it is.
Well, thanks for showing that map. Those schoolhouse maps with Alaska and Hawaii down in the corner really don't do us justice.
They don't do us justice at all. Actually, we've printed up my card now. On the back side, it has that map.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, maybe all of us should do that. That's our marketing tool.
Good idea.
I know, related to aviation, the last couple of weeks, a colleague of yours in the House, Representative Sharon Cisna, had a little incident with
that
TSA.
made international news.
International on TSA. I don't know if you want to comment. I know you guys have taken some action, or at least some commentary on this. Senator
She got a standing ovation when she entered. She attended Senator Lisa Murkowski's address to the joint session of the legislature, and she came in right before the senator came, and she got a standing ovation from almost every member of the legislature for having the courage of her convictions as someone that survived cancer and a mastectomy. I think she was standing up for a lot of women, a lot of Americans, to say, let's be reasonable and have some common sense about people with prosthetics and have been through cancer, that we can have security and respect for human dignity when we go through our nation's airports.
Well, it was from us back here, seeing that picture or her description of what was going on, because not only did I see it in the local news, we were seeing it on the national news, and that really gave us an opportunity to be very frank with you. I sit on Homeland Security, Government Services, which deals with TSA, that committee. But like you said, it's a question of treating people with dignity, recognizing we have a security issue we must uphold, but let's do it the right way. And what is interesting is her triggering that issue helped us back here kind of put an Alaskan message here. And what I mean by that is her comments, we got on the phone with TSA, they're changing their website in response to some of her concerns. They have also recognized that issues of individuals like herself, others who might be in other situations, maybe around who've been victims of domestic violence or sexual assault or have a disability, that our officers, TSA officers, have to have that training to be understanding, recognizing they have a job to do. TSA has now reached out to us, to Alaska, to have us bring our professionals, people in the field, to help train, but develop the training from a national training for TSA. And that's a really, for me, it makes me proud to know that we have Alaskans that have that capacity, and two, that a national program wants to tap into Alaskans. So we were happy when we got on the phone and explained the situation that they reached out to us to say, show us some Alaskans that can help us develop a better training program for our TSA officers nationwide.
So we should be all, something good is coming out of a difficult personal situation.
In a lot of ways, we should recognize a difficult situation, but being proud that we have great Alaskans who have incredible capacity that we always say, if you can do it in Alaska, you can do it anywhere. We have people who do incredible things every day, and now we get to export that knowledge to a national effort. So in a way, Sharon's convictions did a great job not only for her and her own personal beliefs, but from Alaska's perspective, put us on the map in a way to say, here's a problem, but we're going to give a solution. And that's kind of the Alaska spirit anyway.
Absolutely. I think it might be appropriate, if you don't mind, just to mention
Sure.
that we are so fortunate, even though we only have 3 congressional members, 2 senators and a representative, that the 3 of you really cover a lot of committees. And I really think that's important to Alaskans, the fact that you're on the Homeland Security and on the Oceans Committee, Lisa's assignments, Don's assignments. It really is remarkable for Alaska, and we're really, it's good for us that you 3 are so busy.
Well, I'm not sure my staff appreciates that, but as you know, as legislators, when you get more assignments, staff usually says, what are we doing? But I think you're right. I think one of the things that I know when I got elected 2 years ago, I talked with Senator Murkowski so we would not duplicate our work, that we would try to make sure we got a good cross so committees that we felt were important to Alaska were covered. And I think in the case, the most recent appointment I got was the chair of Oceans Committee. Which covers...
And that's a subcommittee
It's a subcommittee of Commerce Committee. And what's amazing about the committee, this is the committee that the late Ted Stevens was on, developed the Magnuson-Stevens Act under, but it covers fisheries, NOAA, weather, Coast Guard, I'm missing some other items, but it's just...
Arctic
is underneath that. Right. So it has an incredible... if you could design a subcommittee that's kind of Alaskan, this is it. Now the
Arctic Fisheries Coast Guard sounds, couldn't be better to me.
Couldn't be better. NOAA.
Sounds Kodiak.
Yeah, it sounds Kodiak. So from, yeah, exactly. I mean, the Coast Guard base, as we know, is the largest base in the country is in Kodiak. We know also there's great stress on the base because of the new openings that may occur up in the Arctic. And, you know, and actually Kodiak base is one we talk about too on energy, because almost 89% of Kodiak is now renewable energy connected.
That's right.
Which is very impressive. And the base is part of that effort.
Absolutely.
So so who knows? I may be taking senators up to Kodiak
to
show them the largest base and really show them what it's like to be in rough waters.
And then to show them how far it is to Nome or to Barrow, where we probably need more resources of the Coast Guard to service the shipping lanes that are coming in the future.
True. I think Kodiak Coast Guard base has really tried to take care of the problems in the Arctic, but it's just too far away.
It's too far.
We just need to find either a port or air base. There needs to be more presence in the Arctic. Yeah.
I think what's going to be helpful, because as chair of the committee, my ranking member is Olympia Snow. She's great. She's my neighbor on what we call my hall, where we work in our building, and she has a lot of issues that we have: Coast Guard, fisheries, you know, a variety of things. So working with her, I agree. I think we have to have a forward base operation for the Coast Guard in Alaska and up in the northern section as the Arctic continues to move forward.
Does she realize the Russians and the Chinese are mapping the ocean floor that should belong to the United States and Alaska?
I think she is one of those that clearly understands that, as you know, and I'll segue really quickly into, and that is the effort we're going to try again this year to move the Law of the Sea Treaty. The Law of the Sea Treaty, as you all know, is critical for our ability to manage the Arctic. We are one of 3 nations that have not signed on. The other 2 nations are North Korea and Libya. I'm not sure I want to be in that company. We're losing our sovereignty. We may have as much ground or continental shelf addition to the size of California. So, and I know you have all talked about Law of the Sea off and on and how important it is, and we're hopeful. And
the Alaska legislature has been on record in the past of urging the Congress to get
Everyone
with it
supports it. We just got a
protect our
couple hard-nosed people here. We're working through them. Couple more before we run out of time. I know Senator Ellis, you work a lot on the education issues, and just this week I know you're both well aware of the importance of the investment we have to make in education. We just introduced a piece of legislation this week called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. I know the state has done incredible investment in education, especially around some of the engineering and some of the new efforts. Maybe you could share that with the audience.
Sure, we're both, thank you for introducing that, because it's very important to our future economically and the children academically. And Senator Stevens has been a real leader on the Education Committee in the Senate. In fact, the Senate broke out the education component from the HES Committee to give more emphasis to education issues in our state. And we're really trying to plow a lot of our resources in the state of Alaska into education at all levels, from pre-kindergarten all the way through postgraduate, and into renewable energy. So that's sort of our vision for the future, of plowing hydrocarbon profits into those areas for the future of the state. But in terms of engineering, I'm a big advocate for the UAF and UAA campuses for expanded engineering facilities. Alaskans, you know, we're a net importer of engineers to build our state and to build our nation, and it's much better to grow our own. And Fran Ulmer was a big supporter of that as chancellor at UAA. She's on her way out, and the new chancellor is supportive as well. I'm putting in legislation to bring Anchorage and Fairbanks together, because it's not a competition. You know, we can cooperate.
We're all together.
And there's enough demand at both campuses for increased engineering. So I'm hoping we can lead that forward, because our future depends on it.
And as we rank worldwide, we're no longer the top in these arenas. And when you think about it,
the U.S. ranking is pretty pitiful compared to our major competitors of how many engineers we turn out, technical people, compared to other industrialized countries. We're falling behind.
And when we think about it, we're not in the top 10, we're not in the top 20, we're in the mid-20s.
And that's what STEM is about, right? Starting with younger kids.
It's moving kids at a younger age, creating innovative programs to get them engaged in science and technology, engineering, math at a very early age. So as they move through, and when they get on to post-secondary, or they're in high school at a certain level, that they're taking those college classes along with their high school, getting prepared, and getting what I consider pretty good paying jobs when you're in those fields. And we'll have more and more as time progresses. As you said, we're importing folks to be engineers.
And so many rural students and native students going into the ANSEP program.
Which is a great program.
We all swell up urban-rural with pride at the young native people in Anchorage, UAA, going through the ANSEP program for native engineers. And
it's a fantastic program.
We're very proud.
Let me say, we got about a minute left. Do you have, either one of you have some final words you want to pass on to Alaskans who are going to be viewing this?
Well, I
get to say Mr. President. How do you like that?
Well, it's been a great pleasure to meet with you, as well as the rest of the delegation, to meet with John Katz. We're looking forward to the next couple of days here of learning more about oil and gas, and taking it back home, and helping us to make a difference in the laws we're passing.
Fantastic. Senator Ellis?
Senator, I appreciate the attitude that you're taking. You stand up to the federal government. As a federal official, you're standing up to the federal government.
They may not like that, but
when necessary for Alaskan interests. That's why we send you to Washington, D.C. to represent us. And you also work with the federal agencies when that's important to our economic future. So we've got to be smart about that relationship. Fight when necessary, and to work with the federal agencies to promote Alaska's interests. And so I'm proud of the balance you've struck between those two things.
Very good. We're out of time. Thank you for joining with the Alaska Report. Thank our legislators that are joining us, and we'll see you next time.